drones.
We can visually see one significantly large Israeli warship, and there are 3 altogether on radar.
Stop threatening us.
This cannot go into the 21st century. We cannot have such situation of an open-air prison in Gaza. 1.5 million people not having water to drink, not having basic things, not having houses to live in.
So, Rifat, Audeh, your film has been screened at the 15th edition of Guarda Film Festival, and we have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, so your film clearly shows how the Israeli Hasbara operates, and how can you explain to people who don't know it what is like to live under the pressure of such kind of propaganda?
Yes, thank you for your question, and thank you for having me at the film festival. The Israeli Hasbara, or propaganda, has been a very strong arm of the Israeli government and the Zionist state ever since it was established, for decades now. And many people do not realize that this propaganda was not only against the flotilla, the 2010 Freedom Flotilla, but this propaganda takes place every day in occupied Palestine. For example, there are many oppressive practices under occupation that the Palestinian people suffer from daily, and these oppressive practices do not reach the outside world because of Israeli propaganda. Israeli propaganda makes Israelis look like the victims and the Palestinians, the criminals or the occupiers, even though it is the Palestinians who are occupied. So it is very frustrating to see this. And this is why I tried to make this film, to expose Israeli propaganda, even if it is for only one single event. But it will give people an idea about the regular practices of Israeli propaganda in general.
Okay, thank you. So the second question is in some ways related to the first. Let's say that Israel, of course, occupies, destroys, arrests, tortures, and make Palestinians' life impossible. What do you think about the fact that Israel funds Palestinian directors, Palestinian production, and Palestinian cultural events in general? How do you explain it?
How do I explain the Israeli attitude towards Palestinian culture? Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, the fact that Israel funds, so give money to Palestinian film directors or Palestinian production or cultural events, because we don't have in Alard 15th edition, but there are some Palestinian films that are funded by Israeli authorities and Israeli institutions.
Well, I'm surprised if the Israeli government would actually fund Palestinian films or Palestinian culture. I don't believe that they would fund anything like that unless they have some type of ulterior motive or another purpose that they are trying to promote, another goal that they are trying to promote. Because the Israeli government and consecutive Israeli governments, successive Israeli governments, have always fought Palestinian culture and heritage and traditions. And the political Israeli viewpoint is that they want to erase any Palestinian identity. This is their political stance. So even if we go as far back as, for example, somebody like the former Prime Minister Golda Meir, she said there is no such thing as a Palestinian people. They want to erase any Palestinian identity or culture. For example, we see that the Israelis claim that even Palestinian dishes like hummus or falafel or something like this, they claim it to be Israeli. So not only did they confiscate the land, they took the land, they also want to take away the culture and the heritage. There are hostesses, airline hostesses in El Al Airlines, the Israeli airline, who would wear Palestinian dress, Palestinian traditional dress, and they would claim it also that it is Israeli dresses. So in general, they fight Palestinian culture and identity. And if there is any occasion where the Israeli government funds any type of Palestinian film or something like this, it is probably to promote certain ideas that they want to show to the world. Maybe ideas that put them in a positive light.